here's something else to think about. Let's say you've got 3 separate bolts. You think, oh, I'll just use the old bolts and the old rubber washers and all that kind of stuff. I only need the gasket here, so I'll just get the gasket only. And I'll just plop that on there and zip, 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 tighten it all back up. Well, you know, just take a look and see. If these look fairly new, that might be a good idea. If they look old, you might want to go ahead and replace these bolts. Now granted, the bolts, when you pull it up, maybe you don't have to take them out. Maybe they're wedged down in the old washers, you know, on the inside of the tank. And they're on there, and you're afraid that the more you work with that, maybe you're going to mess that up. So just take a look at all your pieces and make a decision on the fly if you have to. But decide all that, and worst case scenario, if you go to the store and buy some extra parts, it might do you a favor. When you come back, you might change your mind once you get into your project. I don't know how many times I thought, oh, that would have been a good idea. Then I wouldn't have to spend an hour going back to the store in the middle of the night. Maybe the store's closed and I needed to fix it because I was working tomorrow and we needed the toilet to be working or whatever. You know, there's all kinds of scenarios like that. So buying a couple extra parts for $4 here, $5 there, you can always take those back, can't you? When you get all done, have options. That's the name of the game when you're wanting to fix your toilet. Well, decision time. What would you do here? You know, there's probably 3 different ways I can do this, but what would you do? It doesn't really matter how I do it. It just matters on what you feel comfortable with and knowing how to get your project done. Now, this was the extra thick one. I'm going to decide not to use that. Not to say it wouldn't work, but I'm going to use the other gasket with the indentation for the nut. I'm going to end up using that because it came with 3 new bolts and it came with all the washers and all that. So I think that's what I'm going to do. And so I'm going to look at this and I'm going to pull this back apart, make sure it gets seated properly, and make sure that I have this tree angled in the right position. Because see, I wouldn't want it angled straight up and down in the back, if you can follow this. If it's like that, I got this right over my bottom nut. And if I need to hold that nut with a screwdriver or something now or later on down the road, I couldn't reach it. Because if I had that straight like that, this back side right here would be in the way, wouldn't it? So I'm going to have to take that and tilt it sideways just a little bit at an angle. So when it's in here, when it's in the tank, instead of being straight up and down that back side, that's going to be at a slight angle. So it's going to be kind of off at this angle here. That way it's in between this nut and in between that nut. This can be swiveled wherever you want. Generally, if you got the 2-hole one, this is facing straight back. Or you can put it at a slight angle, whatever. You know, you just don't want to get it in the way of your bolts. Okay, so I'm going to loosen this back up, get it all situated, and get ready to go. Here's an interesting observation. Okay, I'm going to install that, and it came with this bushing here. See how it's kind of tapered like that. When I took the old one out, it looks just a hair smaller. You see what I mean? Just barely. I mean, not that much. And it might be because this got sucked down, and that pushed down and kind of tilted it. So it might be that one, but it looks just a little bit different. Now, this could be 15-year-old washer. It's still tapered, still has a little taper. I feel comfortable that this one is going to work. But incidentally, before, when I was going to use this is the washer that came in that package. And look how much thicker that one is from there. Now, that shouldn't really matter because it came with it, you know. But I tried using that at first and it wasn't holding. mainly because I don't think I had this nut tight enough. But this is a lot stouter than a more pliable one. And so, you know, it probably could work if I really crank down on it, on the nut. But because I'm here by myself, I'm just having a hard time getting that nut in there. And I think plumbers might have a special tool to get that in there, or they might have two guys. One guy holding onto this with two hands and really going at it and maybe try to fold this back a little bit so that they can get their wrench in there or something. And I don't feel comfortable doing that. So I'm just pointing out there's different thicknesses of this rubber. The main thing is that you get that nut tight enough, because I don't want any water leaking around this. Okay? So that came with the unit, and by golly, that's the one that's going to go in.